this is not just some random idea that this or crazy idea, which I just want to address that real quick. The crazy idea. I used to, when I first kicked this off, I thought it, it is a wild idea, period. And it's not been done to this extent anywhere else in the world, but it's almost, you got to see it to believe it. People will come from all over the world to see this because it is a wild idea.
Where do you find a family of communities connected by the storied Mississippi River, where young explorers and dreamers, investors and entrepreneurs thrive? Where can you connect with real people living and creating in a place that's as genuine as it is quirky? QC. That's where.
Welcome to QC That's Where. I'm Katrina, your host with Visit Quad Cities. Today, very excited to be talking to Chad Pregracke, the founder of Living Lands and Waters, Jefferson Award recipient, 2013 CNN's Hero of the Year, author From the Bottom Up, One Man's Crusade to Clean America's Rivers, and now the muscle, the idea behind the Bison Bridge Foundation and the push to repurpose the I-80 bridge over the Mississippi River. Chad, hey, how are you?
I'm doing great. Yeah, thanks for having me on. How are you doing?
Doing great. And, we're at Visit Quad Cities. We're really excited about the concept of a Bison Bridge, becoming a part of our, assets and attraction to people that, not only visit here, but live here. So I'd really love to hear from you, how did this idea even get started and what's kind of going on?
Well, I'm happy to do so. And before I get in, I want to thank Dave and Lynn on your team that leads your team there on all their help on the Bison Bridge. And certainly, I think wanting to build a world-class attraction here aligns with you guys quite well. So thanks for having me on again. And just want to, again, throw a shout out for them for all the help for moving this forward. So they've been super, super helpful. And you said muscle. I only have so much muscle. There's a much bigger team that's been moving this forward, and I certainly don't want to take all the credit. But so yeah. Anyway, just throwing it out there. Yep.
Right. So this is something that was introduced a year ago. So we're spring 2022. This first was introduced to the community in March of 21. Yep. But that's not where it started for you.
No. So yeah, great question. Now, how did it start? The idea did not come overnight, nor did it even come in a year or anything like that. I actually had the idea. The original idea came from this, that we have a rest area on the Illinois side of Interstate 80. When you cross the Mississippi River going east, we have one of the coolest rest areas in the entire state. Even the architecture of the rest area itself is really cool, but it overlooks the whole, what hopefully will be Bison Bridge area and would be the new bridge in the Mississippi River. But it is the least utilized by far of any other rest area. And then Iowa had a rest area as well, but it they sold it because, again, nobody was stopping. And even as a kid, like, it bothered me that people were just driving by. And so there's about 42,000 cars traveling on Interstate 80 a day. And people just aren't stopping. I mean, they're barely stopping for gas. And so through my parents going back are big skiers. So we would go out to the mountains. They're both teachers. So we would have like Easter off and Christmas, and we would go out to the mountains and go skiing. And on our way, there's a wildlife viewing area off of Interstate 70 when you get in the foothills heading into the Rockies. And every time we stopped there would be so many people stopped looking at it. There would be locals there, Colorado plates. There'd be people from all over, and they always stopped to view the wildlife. And as a kid, we're talking in my teens still, I just thought, how cool would it be if you just had a small herd of bison? Because that's what's there. It's not a huge, just like 10 or so bison, just because I think more people would stop. And the idea is, wildlife viewing, people will stop, but then it's also the Mississippi River and view that. And that's where my passion lies too. So that's how the idea originated. And then once I had started a restoration work, because about 5 years ago, 6 years ago, I started the restoration work there because a tornado actually, and I say there, it's where the Mississippi River or Interstate 80 crosses the Mississippi River. Mm-hmm. And so a tornado had hit that area and it looked terrible. And to me, that specific area is either your first impression of Iowa as you cross the Mississippi River into Iowa, or your last impression of Iowa or Illinois as well. The first impression of Illinois, last impression. And so it looked really bad after that tornado went through that clover leaf. And mm-hmm. always keeping that on my mind, I thought this is a great opportunity to restore this to more of a prairie wildflowers, more reflective of what it looked like originally. So that's kind of how this project started. And then through the work on the restoration, then I heard that they're going to put a new bridge somewhere. And, I'm not a proponent of a new bridge. I'm just, if they're going to build a new bridge and it's not in the exact location of the old bridge, then why not keep this bridge and do something one of a kind and repurpose it for basically to improve the quality of life around here for everybody. So for a multitude of reasons, but I know I just threw a lot of information that was like 25 years wrapped out a minute and 20 seconds, but I hope you could follow me on that.
Yeah. So, your goal isn't just to, repurpose an old bridge, but it's to improve the impression of people who are in the area or, like we said earlier, living here. So you mentioned a lot of time was just mentioned in a minute, how realistically, how long would this timeline be? We're years away from a new bridge even being built. I know there's studies going underway right now. Yeah. What do you need to make this, actually happen?
So, again, I mentioned early on, like there's a wonderful team of people helping out, and actually the person that was in charge of the new bridge or the concept of the new bridge coming in retired, and then he's been working with me, Kevin Marchak, and the team for about 2 years now, and so just he's been instrumental in how things work, but in his opinion, and then also Matt Hughes, which worked at IDOT as well. So they're saying that the timing for this is wonderful because we are at the planning stage of this. And, there's been other ideas to save other bridges, but they've been either too late or what have you. And this is spot on as far as timing. So that's good. And then as far as when the new bridge would be constructed, I believe, and I haven't asked the question in the last 2 months, but it's around 5 years from now, which gives us plenty of time to, as we move forward, to get more public engagement. What are the amenities? I mean, kind of define what it could be. And so I think, and then they'd have to build a new bridge, then we would construct it. So, between probably 7 and 10 years, which is totally fine. This is a long-term project that would have really long-term benefits for the region. So it's not a rushed thing, and I want lots of input from lots of people. So, yeah. So I just want to point this out. I hope it doesn't get lost, but our idea is to save the taxpayers between $30 and $40 million by not having to tear the bridge down. And I know that people are going to demand a new bike lane that connects the bike paths that are pretty much already there. Mm-hmm. One's going to LeClaire, and then one already goes in the Illinois side all the way to Savannah. So to make that loop, sorry.
Oh, no problem.
Tried to swipe my, get messed. Sorry. That was about Bison Bridge, by the way.
Perfect.
But basically to connect us, so people are going to demand that. So they would have to make an additional lane on there. So this is what Kevin Marchak on our team and Matt have estimated between $30 and $40 million that we would save the taxpayers. So I feel like if you look at it, like we would have to pay $30 or $40 million to lose the opportunity for something like this. Yeah.
That's one thing that I've noticed, social media comments, people's concerns, a lot of it comes back to money. Who's paying for this? How much does it cost?
Sure.
But it's privately funded.
Yeah, we're not looking for any public money. And anybody who doesn't like the idea, I mean, not everybody's going to like everything, and that's fine. Good news is, if you don't like it, you don't have to go to it. It's not like it's jammed down your throat. And again, we have no say in where the new bridge goes or how big or anything to do with that. This is simply put, if they don't build a bridge right where the old bridge is, then this project would definitely be able to be a viable project. And as far as public money, like, let's think about this. So, as an example, and there's lots of examples. So this is like a public-private partnership. It's very similar to what they just did in the last 3 years at the St. Louis Arch. They redid the entire arch grounds, and they raised, I believe it was $367 million to build a new museum and redo the arch grounds. That was private money, and that's in St. Louis. Now, if you think about Interstate 80, and the question is, like, what company uses Interstate 80? And then you think about it again, you're like, what company does not use Interstate 80? I mean, all the car companies, all of the people who make cement. I mean, it goes on, the trucking companies. And this is random, but this just gives people, I think, an example of, like, let's just say trucking companies, right? Because it is Interstate 80, which is like the one of the biggest interstates in the entire country, and pretty much everybody uses it. There is a company called Bison Transport, which is a trucking company. I saw it, and I just randomly was a passenger. I looked up Bison. I want to, it just sold for $453 million. That's just one small trucking company out there. And that's just kind of an example. Like, I don't believe, from my experience, that, and I've been told this many times by lots of people, that raising the money privately would not be a problem at all, because it is a one-of-a-kind project. It is unique, and it does repurpose infrastructure. And our goal is to take the Interstate 80 bridge, and my A game is to create the next new national park. And just using the St. Louis Arch as an example, it's like 67 acres is the arch grounds right there. So you don't need to have a national park with thousands of acres or anything like this. This would just be land on the Iowa side and land on the Illinois side, and the bridge, a small footprint, and basically the land semi left over from the new project. So that's kind of the deal.
So let's talk about the bison for a moment.
Yeah.
Why bison, and what would that look like as far as their safety, well-being, and the size of the herd?
Yeah. So one thing I've done is I've given the background, and I've kind of laid out some bigger things of why that we think this project is viable, but I haven't really described the project. So let me do that, and then we'll get into the bison, if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
So basically, I want to save the Interstate 80 bridge and turn it into a pedestrian crossing that creates a 20.6 mile loop around the Quad Cities, and forest the bridge. And if you want to check it out, you got to go to bisonbridge.org and check it out. So you have shade. It's totally doable. And that's the eastbound lane. Now, the westbound lane, I want to dedicate to make the largest wildlife crossing in the world, and have some grazing area in Iowa and some grazing land in Illinois for the bison. So the bison don't live on the bridge. They're only able to access the bridge when the conditions are right, when it's not muddy, when the grass is tall. So speaking of that, so basically eastbound lane, we would put 16 inches of dirt is what the engineering firms have told me I could put, and then on the center span where the barges go through, the long span in the middle, I could put 9 inches of dirt. And then I actually called a prairie grass expert and verified how deep the roots and all that. So there has been a tremendous amount of work entails in this. Anyway, so basically it would look like nature took back over this infrastructure. So that's kind of the concept. So Eastbound Lane dedicated to bison, Westbound Lane. Anyway,
The other side.
the other side for people, and it's for pedestrians. And so as far as the well-being of the bison, it's been really cool. So many, I'm not a bison expert. I just think they're really cool animals. And it's not like I'm having a giraffe or something that wasn't here. I'm trying to do something that replace an animal that has been here and was here by the millions. There were 60 million bison at one time, pre-settlement, ranging from all the way from into Canada all the way down to Florida, but they were definitely here. I mean, Illinois is the prairie state. And so it's something that was here and I think should be celebrated. And just to give you a little history of why they should be celebrated, we basically, we as people, we slaughtered them down to 3,500 from millions, right? So we almost eradicated them all. And it was actually Theodore Roosevelt who got together with his buddies and said, hey, if we keep going another half a year like this, they're going to be wiped off. They're going to be extinct. Let's save these. So they started preserving them. And now that the herds are up to like 600,000 roughly. And I think it's a real success story, how we can damage something, but we can also save something. And so many reasons why I think bison, it will be a great thing for bison. But as far as the well-being, like I'm not an expert. So what I did is I looked up top 5 experts on bison and found another person out west that had done something similar to what we're doing, not with a bridge, but a small herd of like 9 or 10. He is Native American who lives on the Wind River Reservation. His name's Jason. He's got, I think, couple master's degrees. I mean, he's one of the top experts, but just super passionate guy. He's been super instrumental. And I'm building a committee of people that are going to be focused on the bison's well-being. But I think some of those people would be from a zoo or different walks of life to make sure that the animals are cared for. But it has been a really cool concern. I thought more people would be focused on the details on the bridge or something like that. A lot of people have been focused on the bison. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, it's encouraging when you read through, comments and stuff, people talking about, are they fit for this area? Are they going to be, overwhelmed by noise pollution, living kind of close to cities, that kind of thing. And then obviously a herd would be small, 8 to 10 to start. What about if baby bison were to come from this herd?
No, that probably will happen. So what was interesting to know is like people want to know where you're going to get the bison from, and like lots of people have with different herds. And it's like, hey, we'll give you a bison. But it would be part of like the breeding program to keep the gene pool diverse. And so I would want to work with the other national parks and how they do it to make the bison adapt pretty easily to their surroundings. Is they would actually bring in immature bison, not necessarily newborns, but young bison that just think this is where I live. I mean, that they wouldn't think any different of it. They'd graze right over to Iowa. They'd graze right back over to Illinois. It's just part of where they grew up. And so that's what I've been told by the experts. Again, not an expert, just an enthusiast on them and think they're really cool. And yeah.
So you've gotten support over the last year. The Illinois House Transportation Committee unanimously passed this earlier this spring. So
Yeah.
what is next, logistically to keep this moving forward?
We're working with the Secretary of Transportation in DC. We're bending his ear, and we are just trying to basically get this as an option to be able to keep the bridge again with IDOT. And it's just we're just trying to work through IDOT, and they have their procedures but we want this to be an option. Definitely. If the alignment isn't to go right over, we want to save taxpayers money and make this a reality. But we have to work through IDOT, and we're letting them know that this is not just some random idea or crazy idea. Which I just want to address that real quick. The crazy idea. When I first kicked this off, I thought it is a wild idea, period. And it's not been done to this extent anywhere else in the world, but it's almost, you got to see it to believe it. People will come from all over the world to see this because it is a wild idea. And it is repurposing infrastructure. It is a positive deal. So I don't, IDOT's not used to an entity wanting to do something like this, but saving a bridge has been done all over.
Mm-hmm.
It's not new for anybody, just what people do with the bridge, what we want to do with the bridge. And I say we have about 38,000 people signed up with their information. I mean, not just liked it, but actually signed information, and so we've gained a lot of traction. And so, yeah.
What do you need support-wise from the community at this point? Like you said, you've got 38,000 plus signatures. There's tons of information on bisonbridge.org. What do you need from the Quad Cities community?
Go to the website, sign up, but there's going to be some public meetings coming up when they announced the different options for the placement of the new bridge, and they're going to want input about bike paths, about Bison Bridge, or other concerns, what have you. But that would be the place where definitely we would need people to go and express that they think this is a world-class, one-of-a-kind, once in a lifetime opportunity, and that they want to see this at least an option. And if it's privately held or private money, then why wouldn't this be an option? So that's really what we would need them to do now. But go to the website and sign up, and then we will let you know when IDOT does announce those public meetings. They'll either be in person in a room or they'll be online. But so far, I think we're going to have a pretty good showing of people, and that's really what they need to hear.
So for people who are concerned about, the safety maintenance of the bridge itself, if you're not using it for traffic anymore, is it safe for this purpose?
Yeah, and so they're not allowing the bridge to be in a horrible state.
Mm-hmm.
They're ahead of the game with building this. It really doesn't have to do with a bad structure. I believe that bridge was built for 100 years, to last 100 years with vibration. Vibration and salt are the two things, and the element that really can sort of degrade a bridge. If you take that away, that vibration of those semis just hammering it at 60 miles, 70 miles an hour, going across there all day, and you take it, it'll last a very long time. And so we have other engineering firms on our team that are evaluating how long that would be or how long that would last. But if you take an example, Cincinnati and the bridge they kept there, Chattanooga, Tennessee, Louisville, Kentucky. If you look at Louisville, Kentucky, that was a bridge that was totally abandoned. It sat there for 75 years with zero people doing no paint, nothing. It sat there, and then they repurposed it into what is one of the coolest, most outside the box places to visit you could ever think of. And it's now the centerpiece of their community. And so structurally, I'm not a structural engineer, but I have a whole team of them, and they're saying this will work. So
you said, out of the box idea. I mean, if you think about all kinds of things across the world, there's all kinds of out of the box ideas. And, you do have to see it to believe it. And they got to start somewhere. There's pyramids in Egypt. And that's, even that in itself is wild. And there's other national parks that feature, beautiful and exotic animals. So
yeah.
Really excited about this concept and the support that you've gotten over the last year. Excited to see it keep rolling and see where we get with this. And I wanted to switch gears, if it's okay with you. So Living Lands and Waters, your nonprofit that you started, which for people who don't know listening, Living Lands and Waters is a nonprofit that is focused on environmental cleanup and conservation efforts. So while all of this is happening with the Bison Bridge efforts, what's happening over at Living Lands and Waters?
With Living Lands and Waters, this is our 25th year since I started cleaning up the river. So kind of a big year for us. We're going to have a barge party fundraiser. We haven't had one here in a few years coming up, but we usually typically park our barges for the winter, and then we come back up here, and this is our home base. And tear down all of our equipment, re-weld our boats, whatever needs to be done, plan, recap from the year, and then plan for the next year. We never really had a break as a team because the devastating tornadoes happened down in Kentucky on December 10th. The tornado was like an F4, and it went about 224 miles, I believe, and just annihilated everything in its path. Well, where Tennessee River is near where we sort of park our barges in a marine transportation hub near Paducah, Kentucky, where across the Tennessee River, it basically threw part of a neighborhood into the lake, and it was just devastated. And so I received all these calls for people wanting us to come there and help, and there was nobody else to do it, nor did they have specialized equipment like Living Lands and Waters does with our barges and work boats and team of people and expertise. So we were only parked for one day for the season. Then we just moved the barges again into place. We started actually Christmas Eve and worked all the way through New Year's, all the way. We have just one more event left to do there this year. And we've removed to date over 100 semi-loads out of the water. And it is about 1.2 million pounds removed so far. And we've had great support from the communities down there. People very appreciative. The lake is very important to the people's way of life down there, and also the local economy. And we worked. It was a cold winter, but and it was a lot of work, but we got a wonderful team. We had a lot of volunteers come. We had some union operators drive all the way from the Quad Cities, do excavating, and they came down, helped out. Just people from all over the country came and helped us. So we're wrapped up from the water up. We believe we did a really good bang up job, but our last event is kind of cool, and anybody listening that's interested. So there's a bay full of junk on the bottom, like it's dangerous metal that you can't see. So we have dive teams we're putting together. It's happening May 14th. Rescue divers from, like the fire departments and state police and all that, but they're coming down to help us basically go scour this bay. We'll mark it all. We'll pick it up with our cranes and our smaller boats, or we'll reach down with our excavator and grab it after they leave. So that's the last event. And then right now, by next week, we'll have either given out or planted. I think it's over 150,000 trees out the door in the last month here. And so that's good. And then we'll be back to our cleanup season and working all over the Mississippi, Illinois, and Ohio River is kind of our focuses this year, and then have something really cool that I'm going to be doing in the Quad Cities that will be a great addition to the area. Not going to kick it off now. Don't even know why I brought that up.
Okay. Well, now I'm curious, so we'll have to circle back on that.
Yeah, we will. Yeah, for sure. Really
So,
cool.
Living Lands, you travel all over the Midwest for planned events, and then also extenuating circumstances like what happened in Kentucky. How do people get involved if they wanted to?
You can go to livinglandsandwaters.org. Again, that's livinglandsandwaters.org, and check it out. There's some different opportunities. We're doing a lot with the I-80 restoration, and we have a nursery here in town where we grow the trees, and so there's just a lot of different opportunities. We do a lot of events, removing invasive species and river cleanups, and so yeah, there's a lot of opportunities. Just give us a shout. But for now, if there's Bison Bridge supporters out there, we could sure use you in your voice and your heart on the next public meeting coming up. But yeah.
And outside of conservation efforts, saving the planet, helping out, what do you do as, a hobby, or who is Chad outside of these conservation efforts?
I still skate. I like snowboarding. I like being on the river. I like boating. It's just, my work really takes a lot of the time, and I really like what I do. So it's not like it's kind of all one. It's just who I am or whatever, what I do. And so, that's pretty much, I don't know. I do guess whatever I want to do, I guess. I don't really know. I like making things better, being creative and all those things. And it does, especially with Bison Bridge, and everything else. It just takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, but it's not just me, even though the question was, who is Chad, but it's really people. And I love hanging out with those people that I live and work with. And so all is good. I like making cool stuff happen, I guess. So I think, yeah.
Well, you started Living Lands and Waters because you have kind of a cool story. You started it because you were trying to get, in touch with your representatives to, hey, this is an issue. How do we get this fixed? And you just said, hey, let's just get in there and do it ourselves.
Yeah. That's basically what it was. And, I didn't start it with a grand plan. I'm an average intelligence and just, regular person, and just, but I could, I learned like what works and what's going to get the most garbage out of the rivers. How can we get it cleaned up? And that was through teamwork. That was through lots of people coming together for a common cause. And so, that's worked out too. But let me turn the tables a little bit with Visit Quad Cities. What's your there? We're really lucky to have you guys there, and Dave at the helm there. We're lucky to have him in the Quad Cities. He worked in Nashville prior to, and the two sports teams. He was really a leader in bringing, I think it was hockey and the Tennessee Titans to Nashville, and the stadium, and a lot of things. And story goes, he wanted a great place to raise a family, and wanted to be able to, the size of the Quad City and the size it was, to be able to feel like he's really making a difference. And I just feel like, a shout out to him, because he moved here and he's leading the state of Illinois. He's the top person for all the different visit, basically whatever city you're in. I don't know the name of it, but he's a leader, not just in Illinois, but specifically the Quad Cities. And so we're just lucky to have him. And I hope people realize what a great asset it is to have Visit Quad Cities here and under him. And he's been really helping Bison Bridge move forward with a lot of his contacts and power. And so I just turned the tables on you, but I wanted to say that.
No, that's great. A well-deserved shout out to Dave. Absolutely. And it just does go to show you what one person's momentum can do to make
Yep.
changes in a community.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, sure. And one person's, I just feel like a lot of people underestimate themselves to make a big difference. But one person can make a difference, but collectively, if you get a lot of people together, that's how change not only happens, but stays, and movements happen. And with Living Lands, Waters, and the river cleanup, we've worked all over the country. It truly is a movement, and so I'm happy to be a small part of that. Again, I work with a wonderful team. I've worked with over 118,000 volunteers side by side since I started. We've done over 14 river cleanups and around the country, and so I love it. So, yeah.
We did a podcast with unrelated Dr. Kit Ford of Argro's House a few weeks back, and I really enjoyed how she put the Quad Cities community. She said it's a village, and it's a village that said yes to her mission and the mission of what her nonprofit does. And I think we've seen the same thing happen with Living Lands and now Bison Bridge Foundation. It's a community that's saying yes, and that's what it takes to move something forward.
I agree.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. So if there's anything else you'd like to add about Bison Bridge or any other nuggets, we would love to hear it.
Just that the Quad Cities really is a wonderful place to be, and it's the people that make it up, and there's a lot of people who want to see it be the best it can be, we focus a lot on Bison Bridge, and I just kind of want to end on that, just some highlights. But the bridge would truly add to the quality of life around here. It has a functional purpose, is to connect the two paths so you can ride a bike, walk, whatever. It's not just for the 42,000 cars. It's really for the quality of life just as much around on here. But the Quad Cities, just population wise, is pretty flat, just like a lot of other Midwestern towns. And we want to be able to do everything we can as people here to make sure that it's put on the map, and I think and stays relevant and growing. And I think the Bison Bridge would be a wonderful addition to this area, and I need all the help I can get to try to make that happen. Anyway, yeah, I think that's pretty much it. So yeah, I love it.
Well, I'm going to throw this at you per tradition on this podcast. Please fill in the blank for us. QC, that's where
great things happen. That's what I.
Cool. That's where great things happen. Thank you so much, Chad. I just want to remind everybody more information on bisonbridge.org. And then you can sign the support petition there. And we will obviously be following this as things progress. So please keep an eye out on our Facebook page, Quad Cities, or our Instagram, Twitter handle @Visit Quad Cities. And thank you so much. We will see you guys next time.
Thanks for listening to QC, That's Where, a podcast powered by Visit Quad Cities. Text Visit QC to 38314 for insider events, activities, and updates sent straight to your phone. That's VISITQC, one word, to 38314. Message and data rates may apply.